Look, I'm as disappointed as all of you are. For several reasons. I missed the blip at the beginning of the song again. Then I went live with a black screen. Hi, everybody. It's the illustrious Pete the Planner Show, podcast and radio show. It's not the radio show yet until we start a segment. By we, I mean Dame Dunn. Hello, Dame.
Hello, Pete. Just thinking about those broadcasting skills we were talking about earlier.
Oh, my gosh. So, Dame, I need some people to load in here. People are joining us right now, but I've got some news I need to share with people. Dame knows it. There's Danza. Hello, wake up. It's time to go. All right, I'm just starting. Here we go. Everybody, Damian Dunn is a radio star. He found himself on a trucker podcast. He's doing a live radio interview next week throughout Indiana. Like, he is a big deal. I feel at some point in time that he's going to be too big to do this show, and I'm slightly intimidated by his broadcasting skills.
Man, wouldn't that be something if I was too big for your show?
That'd be great. So Dame, you're doing a little outside radio and broadcasting work. Good for you.
Yeah, it's going to be it's been a great experience so far to work with professionals and figure out what shows look like when they're done outside of our network and just getting some experience.
I love it. All right, so Dame, we've got a very diverse show this week. Probably not as crazy as last week's program. No one ever said anything other than here on the live show when we were watching videos of me being a moron. No one from the podcast said anything. So, we're just going to keep it normal today. That's the goal today.
All right.
We have a question about permanent life insurance to start. We've got a question about how do you actually get money out of your 401k when you go to retire and what should you do? And then a BNPL question. You know what BNPL stands for?
Buy now, pay later.
There it is. And then finally the BWAM, and you know what that stands for. Good morning, Jeremy. Good to be with you live on Facebook. All right. So, Dame, are you ready to go? Let's just, do the thing, as the kids say. I don't know if anyone says that.
You do, and that's good enough.
I'm an assistant coach of a 12-year-old girls soccer team.
Well, you got a really snazzy shirt, though.
Oh, yeah, I do have my money mechanic shirt on this morning.
No, I meant your soccer shirt.
Oh, my soccer shirt. It says Carmel Football Club on it.
Yeah, the schmedium.
It is a schmedium. It was a medium, and I put it on once I got home because I'm not going to try a shirt on at a store. I'm not a savage. And turns out it's tight. Yeah, you can see all my anatomies. Okay, let's do the show. In 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com, and we'll answer your questions right here on this very air. It's like dairy. Damian Dunn joins me as always. Hello, Dame.
Hello, Pete.
Nothing like a weird joke like that to start the show. Dame, we've got several questions this week, and so let's get to it. People can email us by going to askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's sending an email to askpete@petetheplanner.com. Dame, the first email I ever sent in my entire life, I sent to my friend Devin when I was a junior in high school. This was about 1995. He was in college, and so I had just got a brand new computer, right? Mm-hmm. And I went and entered his email address in the web browser address line and was confused for about 90 minutes. So anyway, hopefully that's none of you. You can go to your actual email settings and hit us up at askpete@petetheplanner.com. Dear Pete, I'm 25 years old, and I've recently started meeting with a financial planner. They have recommended a whole life insurance policy as a part of a way to build equity. I've read various things about this cash value life insurance, but I was hoping to get more clarity from you. Is this something you would recommend at my age, or should I put my money into a Roth IRA? I have no student loans. The only debt I have is a car payment each month. Big fan of the show. Michaela from Minnesota. Nice. Dame, this is a good opportunity for me to say we don't like and or dislike specific financial products. Mm-hmm. What we like and or dislike is the fit for a particular person of those financial products. So for us to come on the air and say things like annuities are amazing or annuities are terrible, you'll never get to hear us say it. And while people like to make it that clean and neat, it just isn't. Most, if not all, I'm hedging, financial products exist for a particular reason, for a particular audience, and serve a beautiful purpose within a person's financial life. So then this question becomes, is whole life insurance appropriate for a 25-year-old who doesn't look like they're maxing out their Roth IRA or arguably their employer's retirement plan as a way to build wealth? Now, Dame, did this person indicate as to whether they were betrothed in any particular way?
I do not believe they did.
So we could argue at the very beginning here, one of the reasons to purchase life insurance is if there is a survivor need. In the event that Michaela were to move on to a better place, and I don't mean out of Minnesota, I mean like dead, just like straight up, just real dead, then it doesn't seem as though that someone would economically suffer because of that, right?
It seems highly unlikely. I mean, there's no debt outstanding. There's nobody that would be left burdened with any potential debt either at this point that we know of. So, I mean, I'm still in favor of younger folks seriously considering insurance and making sure that you get coverage. You never know what the next day is going to hold. You never know what your health may do, and you may qualify for an incredibly cheap rate right now with term life insurance, and that may not be the case in the near future. So if you are considering it or have some extra cash and you want to make sure you're covered for the foreseeable future, yeah, insurance, go for it. Even if you don't have a specific reason to necessarily have it right now, it might not be the worst idea in the world, but a whole life insurance policy at 25 with no specific reason other than it might be a good way to build wealth right now seems like somebody might be trying to squeeze her into a product.
Yeah, a couple other things I want to note. I want to expand on a particular point that you said. I think guaranteeing future insurability is a really important concept. So whereas Michaela is 25, at some point she will not be 25. And I would also argue that Michaela also might not be as healthy as she happens to be right now, later. Right. So that is to say, if she has a history in her family of a particular medical condition and she wants to lock in her insurability at a high health quality, buying some sort of life insurance now to ensure that she will always be able to be insured does make sense, like you said. Now, the other aspect of this that sort of bothers me is I don't mind cash value life insurance to maximize a tax situation, like to take advantage of the tax efficiency of the life insurance plan. But I think you have to exhaust some more conventional means prior to doing that. Now, this is my opinion, by the way, and I know a lot of people do it different ways. I like the idea of maxing out a Roth IRA. Back when I used to provide life insurance to people as part of a financial plan, we used to say, because we were trained to say it this way, that the glory of permanent life insurance from a tax sensitivity standpoint mirrors a Roth IRA. Right? It has the same, to some degree, has the same sort of tax functionality. So, Dame, if that's the case, why not start with the OG, which is the Roth IRA? I think that's got to be the place to start.
Roth IRA is going to be less complicated, quite possibly less expensive with fees and whatnot, way more portable. It just seems like, as you said, I don't know why in the world, we're very similar in this instance, why somebody would make a whole life insurance policy one of the first tools they employ to build long-term wealth. They do certainly have their role to play in some situations for individuals, but as a 25-year-old, I just think there are other accessible things, the product or tools that you could use to get to this particular goal, not to mention the fact that it doesn't always have to be tax qualified savings either at this point. Make sure you've got that emergency fund. She's 25. She doesn't really have any debt. We haven't even got to that point. So if somebody's trying to really gobble up a big chunk of your monthly income, which I would assume that there's going to be a pretty hefty price tag that comes along with this potential policy.
You know what? Good point. And let me step on you.
Okay.
What do you think the premium is? Okay, because this is a person that doesn't have survivor needs, right? This is someone who's 25. We think, based on the name, this person is a female, meaning that they're going to be less expensive than insuring a male. $100,000 whole life policy for someone that age, man, this is where I'm going to just show my lack of recent experience. What do you think? $90 a month?
Probably. I was trying to guess what the value of the policy was that she was being sold, and I was going to go with 100, just because I think that's a kicking off point. They've got a little bit of flexibility to go down if the client or the prospect hedges a little bit and they want to go down to 50. But
the prospect,
I'm trying to use the right terminology for this particular supposed institution. Probably $90 would be my guess, and for $100,000, if you were to get a comparative term policy,
would be $12.
Not much.
But by the way, and it is worth saying, $90 for $100,000 of permanent coverage and locking that in, it is a good deal. It is the coverage you would theoretically have forever. And Michaela, if you happen to have an extra $90 laying around after you've maxed out your Roth IRA and arguably maxed out your 401k, then go ahead and do it. Here, with the minute we have left, here's who I love whole life insurance for, or any version of permanent life insurance. Highly compensated people that want to squirrel away tax efficient money after they've exhausted other ways to do it. And I think it's great. I think it is a great tool for physicians and attorneys and people who make a lot of money and who will always make a lot of money. That's a big key to this too. If you happen to be doing well now, but you don't think that will persist, this ain't the rodeo for you. And it's with that we take a break. Coming up after the break, when you have a 401k and you go to retire, how do you get paid? All that's next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. The outros are back. Could you tell?
It's right on. Right.
Last week was an abysmal situation. Troy Montagne joins the show and the live stream. Look at that, man. It's the best. You know what I think is interesting about Troy, talking here? He had a child born on May 29th, the only reason I know that is because he used to be in charge of Indiana's 529 plan. And so his child was born on 529. I have a son born on 401, as in 401k, April 1st. Tito.
I have a daughter that was born on January 23rd, and I said that was because I was too dumb to remember anything other than 1, 2, 3.
See?
It all works out.
You know what this all adds up to? Nothing. Literally nothing. Okay. I don't hate life insurance. I don't hate annuities. I think they're fantastic for the right person. A single 25-year-old that's not maxing out things, probably not what I would do.
No.
I know.
Send all the hate mail to Ask Pete.
NML.com.
That's right.
I'm just kidding. Okay. That's going to catch some ire. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show. Dame, you never wonder what happens when you retire and you got this 401k or a 403b and you're ready to go a different direction in your life. And by different direction, I mean you're retired. How does the money actually get out of the 401k, right? How does it happen? So we got an email about this sort of this week. Let's take a look. When a person retires and no more paycheck, does their funds, okay, I'm just reading this as written, okay? So look, when a person retires and no more paycheck, does their funds balance in 401k stop or freeze at that time, or is it still susceptible to the ups and downs of the market? Okay, so we're going to pause that question as I continue to read because we're going to come back and answer that initial question. For example, because we get an example here, a person retires with $250,000 in account. Does that balance gain loss as usual? Or does it freeze? Freeze tag was an underrated game as a kid, was it not?
It always boiled down to people being upset and the freezing really not working out so well. I mean, it was great for like 5 minutes.
Wasn't there a version of freeze tag to unfreeze someone that you crawled through their legs?
Yes.
Is that the primary version of freeze tag?
I had forgotten about that, but I think it might be the primary rule in freeze tag.
See, for my son to have fun today, he's either on video games or some giant mechanism. When we were kids, we were breaking each other's arms with Red Rover, and we were climbing between people's legs to unfreeze them from a temporary paralysis brought about by touching.
Yeah, jumping off swing sets that were like 12 feet tall and just, flying through the air. I remember those great times.
Do you remember flying off of a swing that you swung up, flew off the swing 300 feet in the air? Not once did you get hurt.
Never.
But where you did get hurt is when you'd go swing back on the swing and your friend was walking by and you'd kick them right in the jibs.
Yeah.
Anyway, or does it freeze and said balance is what they have to withdraw from forever? Or, like I said, that figure can go up or down depending on the market. I'm back to the email for those that not know. I still have 4 or 5 years before retirement. I assume the balance in your 401k does not retire with you and is still invested in the market, but not adding to it. Is that the case? Is there a safety strategy to minimize losses, change percentage in stocks and bonds? Thank you. No name. Oz took the name off of this one. So sometimes you and I, Dame, because we do this for a living, we realize that we take for granted that people just understand how all this stuff works, which is why I'm glad we're here. So that no one feels silly that they don't understand this. Dame, what happens when your employment status goes from employed to unemployed via retirement? What happens to your account? Like, does it freeze?
The complicated term I think that we use is nothing. Nothing changes with your account.
Not a thing.
Whatever it was the day before you walked out the door and the day after you walked out of the door, unless you go on and make changes inside of that account, it's going to be invested the exact same way. Now, maybe you do decide to make some changes, and you, as the author of the email says, is there a strategy to minimize losses? Well, yes, potentially there is, and it depends on just how complicated or how safe, air quotes, safe you want to be. You can increase the amount of bonds potentially to take some of the volatility out of the portfolio, or you could go all the way to cash, which is not usually the very best answer for you as well. But yeah, you can minimize the volatility that you see inside of the value of that account after you retire. It just depends on, well, honestly, how much money do you need and for how long are you going to need it, and trying to line up all those things.
This question seems rather simplistic, but I have to be honest, there's a lot of complex movement to this, because not only does this person really asking about time horizon, their time horizon begins 4 to 5 years when they retire, but it's not vanquished upon retirement. Their time horizon persists throughout retirement. So that impacts their risk tolerance and their allocation. I would also note that, like you said, nothing actually happens. Let's say they have a growth account right now. That maybe that's their objective. It switches. It switches to growth and or income after, or growth and income and or income after that. And it also has to do with how much money you need off of this account as a percentage of your overall retirement income. If Social Security gets the job done, then don't touch it. Like, don't just withdraw money because you can. And I would say, Dame, and you've seen this, sometimes people think they retire, therefore they should pull money out of their retirement plan prior to 70, and that becomes an issue.
Yeah, and you've brought up a good point just a minute ago. It really depends on what your needs for this account are. If you're one of the few folks in the country that still gets a pension and Social Security, and that covers all of your living expenses, you could feasibly leave your 401k or IRA or whatever, 403b, 457, in a pretty aggressive portfolio and really not have too much to be concerned about because all of your income needs are taken care of by fixed resources at that point. So you're going to have to make sure that you understand how much you need and roughly what that time horizon is. And you're right, Pete, it is a more complicated question than a lot of people give it credit for.
You know, the idea of a pension is a form of an annuity, where an annuity over time, an annuitized annuity, I should say, it is where a payout occurs over a certain period of time indefinitely. Right. And so people just assume because they grew up around pensions or their grandpa had a pension and that grandpa got a check every month, that the 401k has that same mechanism. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in theory, you could set up the account to send you a check every month.
No, yeah, I'm saying it naturally doesn't.
Yeah, it naturally does not. And the beauty of an annuity or a pension is that payment is going to be fixed, and you're going to get it regardless of market performance going forward, and you can count on it month to month. 401k, you can set up to get a check every month, and yes, that check will be consistent from month to month until there's no more money there. And that's the problem that you potentially run into. And it's a not insignificant problem when it comes to making sure you've got money to live on in retirement.
You know, this is sort of off topic, but, you know, who really cares? I have found that when someone retires and they don't have a lot of investment savvy, something that can commonly occur is that they'll look at their very big balance from a relative perspective to them. They'll say, hey, this is $250,000. And I'm not here to say $250,000 is not a lot of money, but I am here to say that it can't independently support a retirement. It just can't. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. At best, it can perpetually give you $1,000 a month, right? And that's not going to support anybody in retirement. And that's very generous, by the way, saying $1,000 a month perpetually. Dame, here's what I find people do. They'll see $250,000. They'll say, that's a lot of money. You know, I want to take $5,000 and go on my retirement vacation. And they don't realize the impact of that exorbitant withdrawal from a percentage standpoint has on the remaining 30 years of their retirement. Am I saying they shouldn't go enjoy themselves? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when people don't have a good concept, a good grasp of a percentage withdrawal off of an asset or a nest egg, it leads to a retirement lifetime filled with challenges based on one or two decisions at the very beginning of retirement. And I know you've seen that too.
Yeah. Is this big spend worth taking a permanent reduction, a most likely permanent reduction in your monthly income?
Exactly. So here's what we're going to do after the break. There is a trend called BNPL. Buy now, pay later. It's like a fancy layaway for internet folks. We'll explain what it means, why it is the next frontier in consumer debt, and why it's just like, come on, we're just reinventing the wheel for no particular reason. I'll give you my real feelings. All that's next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Lori joining us from Alaska. Good day, Lori.
It's before sunrise probably there.
I've always wanted to go to Alaska.
It's a summer, so the sun might have been up for like 8 hours already, though.
Have you been to Alaska?
I have not, but my in-laws want to take the whole family there because they did live there for a while.
I would love to go to Alaska. I've been to Hawaii, but I was only there for like 3 days and it was for work. And I did not really get to do anything that much fun.
And by work, you mean a conference where you got to talk a couple times and sit on the beach, I'm guessing?
I finished a book, and I don't mean reading a book, writing a book on Waikiki Beach at like 3 a.m. Hawaii time because I was wide awake. Yeah. This is 2015 is when I was there, and I was there for like 72 hours. It was very strange.
That's brutal.
It was not great. Oh, did I ever tell you about the flight home from Hawaii?
I don't think so.
I was at the airport. I was going to fly. I think it was flying American, maybe. I don't remember. And I had to fly through Dallas. And I was checking in for my flight. I was flying coach. And I saw this glitch. Like I could get a first class ticket for like $178 upgrade. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely doing that. Right. And so I did it. And I end up sitting next to this woman who was probably 24 years old. She was from Denver. She was a bartender at an airport hotel in Denver. And she was flown to Hawaii by two men who, this isn't going to go as weird as you think. I mean, it's going to be weird, but it's not going to be super weird. That constantly drank at her bar, and she was their favorite bartender. So they flew her to make them drinks in Hawaii. And so then they flew her first class to do this. And so on the way back, we're sort of just chatting before the flight. She's a bartender. She just starts drinking a lot, and is watching movies and just cracking up. People are trying to sleep. And like the flight attendant wakes me up and goes, "Is she your travel companion?" And I was like, "What?" And I'm like, out of it's like, "What?" And they're like, "Is she your travel companion?" I was like, "No." And I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "Because she needs to get under control or we're going to have to turn this plane around." And she's sitting right next to me. And all these people are looking at me because we had been conversing earlier on. So they thought we're together. And this woman is about to get thrown off of a trans-Pacific flight. And then she passed out at one point because she had drank so much. We land in Dallas, and like it was wild. It was wild. There you go.
Holy smokes.
Jeremy, our pilot friend, says, "Wait, everyone doesn't do that in first class?" That's so true. Okay. You think people like the stories that I tell on this show?
I don't want to. I do. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I do.
We all have that friend that thinks their stories are good, but they're not. They're terrible. And I don't want to A, be that person, or B, turn into that person, but it's inevitable.
I can't fake that kind of appreciation or enjoyment, so you'll be able to tell if I'm not digging it.
My son reminded my Tito loves NBA basketball jerseys. He likes, having jerseys, and he wants a Dikembe Mutombo jersey right now, like the classic Nuggets, like super colorful Dikembe Mutombo jersey. Neil, my friend Neil just distracted me. So I'm interrupting a story with a story. Last night, I had a dream that my good friend Neil was kidnapped for his Bitcoin. And I was involved, and I had to figure out his Bitcoin password, which was Go Irish. And I don't know why. He's not a Notre Dame fan or anything. Maybe he's been to a Claddagh pub. I don't know. But his Bitcoin, we got him back because I told his kidnapper that his Bitcoin password was Go Irish. And then when we recovered Neil, he was mad because then he lost all his Bitcoin. And so Neil chimes in. Anyway, back to the story. So Ted wants a Dikembe Mutombo jersey, which brought up one of my all-time favorite stories of seeing Dikembe Mutombo on vacation at a table next to ours at dinner. Dame, I have told you this story. Have I not?
I don't know. I don't think you have.
Okay. Dikembe Mutombo is with his family. Mrs. Planner and I are on a trip to the Bahamas. We're in Atlantis in the Bahamas. I think we were eating at a Bobby Flay restaurant at the time. I think it was a Mesa Grill. We're sitting there. Dikembe and his family are sitting there. It's he and his lady friend and 4 or 5 young children, small children. And so the kids are acting a fool. Why? Because everyone's kids act a fool. And so they bring out bread and rolls and things like this. And this kid eats a roll and then eats another roll. I'm all witnessing this. And he gets to this point where Dikembe's like, "No more roll," because he sounds like Cookie Monster. And that's just what he sounds like. "No more roll." And so the kid goes to get another roll. Dikembe reaches across the table in his 8-foot wingspan, slaps a roll out of the kid's hand, and then gives him the Dikembe finger. And he goes, "No roll."
I have never heard that story before.
I've never told you that story. That is, when I die and I get to heaven-ish, and God was like, "So tell me about how everything went." I will tell God that story. He's seen it. That's my favorite story. Now, to be fair, and Mrs. Planner does not consume our media. She does not watch the show. She's not entertained by me in life and or work. She contends that did not happen.
What?
She says it didn't happen. It totally happened.
So why would you put that question of doubt in my head now?
Well, because I like to be transparent, but it totally happened. Her back was to the situation. I'm staring at the man. It's hard not to stare at a 7'4" man eating dinner at a Southwestern restaurant in the Bahamas. He slaps the roll and goes, "No, no more roll," like this. And I was like, what? I had hair. It was a different time.
What are the chances we can get Dikembe on the show to confirm this story?
That's here's the thing. That would be amazing. But that also sounds like effort. And we are against effort on this show.
Yeah.
For those just joining us, because I know we've got more people here than earlier, Damian Dunn is a radio star these days. He's what was the name of the trucker podcast you were on?
Drive.
That's a good name for a show. So people can go to the Drive podcast and listen to Dame talk about truckers' financial lives. And then this coming week, Dame's going to be all in Indiana, which I believe is the WFYI, NPR Radio Indiana, is going to be a guest on that program. He's a big star. So at some point in time, his demands are going to be a problem for this show.
Yeah, looking for that comp boost for the celebrity and notoriety I'm bringing to the show.
In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. If you ever want to catch what we talk about during the break on this show, go get our podcast. It's just called the Pete the Planner Show. Dame, if I'm being honest, like when I say, hey, go to this place and get our podcast, I'm telling the radio audience this right now. Where do you tell someone to go get a podcast? I used to say, like, go to iTunes or go to Stitcher or go to... I don't care where you go to get the podcast. And just Google it or Bing it, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, we don't get paid for the podcast. So whether you get it through... Stitcher,
you don't get paid for the radio show.
Yeah, or Overcast or any place, wherever you get your podcasts, look for us.
What do you listen to? What podcast platform do you listen to?
Overcast.
Me too. All right, Dame. So not too long ago, I was doing some surfing on the web. Do people say that anymore?
I don't think so.
You know what people do say? So go to www.petetheplanner.com. Why do people still in 2021 insist on shorthand for a World Wide Web in an email address, like in a radio advertisement? You know how long it takes to say www on a radio advertisement? Too long.
Yeah.
And it's not necessary.
Yeah, it's fine. Does anybody actually type www anymore?
I think people who hear about something on a commercial, but why not? Like, here's what I truly don't get. Is it a way to alert someone they're about to hear a web address? Because that could theoretically be the case. It's like www, and you're like, oh, here comes the wah, wah, wah. And then you go and you're getting ready to write. Is that what happens?
Here's the other thing. How rarely do you type in an exact web address anymore? Or do you just go to Google or Bing and type it in and look for the result?
One of the hottest trends in the financial and commerce space right now is something called BNPL. Buy now, pay later. It is a payment plan like QVC Quick Pay. Is that what I think? Something like that.
I don't know.
And what happens is you are making a purchase. You're buying a pair of trousers, and you don't want to part with the $80 in your checking account, or you don't want to commit to paying $80 on your credit card later. So you choose a site financed option, which involves you making payment plans over time to this third party that's attached to the e-commerce site. Did I explain that in a really clunky way?
Yes, but It's mostly right.
Did I get anything wrong?
No, I don't think so. I just said mostly to
I
throw you
appreciate
off.
that.
Yeah.
So this is a big thing. Like, and there's some like big names in it. Afterpay is one of them, which in itself, just the name of the business Afterpay makes me, it's very descriptive.
Sure.
But it's like, come on. It's a big thing that people are doing all of the time. It is a massive movement. And I'm not talking about, oh, hey, I need some Beats headphones and I need to pay $299 over the course of these 6 easy payments. I'm talking about people are buying things for like $19.99 and paying $4 a month for 5 months.
Yeah, this was a an advent that I don't think anybody really needed. That it seems to me that it seems to be very, very fraught with potential danger for folks. I mean, compared to the original layaway, I still understand that one. You're going to pay and then get the item. But now you're getting the item and then paying over time, which I understand as a credit card. I get that. It's not really helping someone control their spending in any way, shape, or form.
It is a solution to a problem that does not exist for consumers, although it is a solution to an opportunity for retailers. Affirm is one of these companies. The maximum value that can be taken out on a single payment plan with Affirm is $17,500. It's just another way to finance a purchase. Now, Dame, there will be someone, because there's always that someone that says, oh, you're being privileged. People need this. I don't think they do, because there's other means to accomplish this. And I find this to be incredibly opportunistic from these payment companies' perspectives. And I don't necessarily even extend the blame onto websites that give people this option. But this is a bad thing. This is like credit and not calling it credit.
Totally. I mean, it's exactly what it is. Except the difference being, instead of an open-ended payment that you can make over the course of who knows however many months or years, it's typically 4 to 6 months for these. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more structured, yeah, I guess that works. Or you could be patient and save the money you need and then pay for it when you buy it.
I have to say, my favorite alternative payment scheme, there's two things that just happen there. I love the use of the word scheme in a non-negative usage. Because, overseas, they talk about your retirement scheme. True. And they don't mean it in a derogatory way. And I also like mispronouncing things. Anyway, my favorite alternative payment scheme is layaway. And I mean it. Layaway has a horrible reputation, and I'm not sure why, because it's wildly responsible. Is it not? Like, you have to have it paid off before you get the joy, whereas credit is you get the joy and then you have to figure out how to pay it off. And to me, that's backwards.
Yeah, I understand layaway, and I like it. What's the difference, though, between just saving money into a savings account? I mean, other than you've officially made that commitment to the store that, hey, that one's mine, and I'm just going to pick it up in 6 months after I've paid this thing off.
I feel like we set this segment up so I could answer that question, because I would love to answer that question. There's a couple different reasons. Number one, it's so that you know that you have that item. It's like it's a particular shirt that you want, or a particular handbag that you want, and maybe it's a fast moving item. You secure it. They take that item and they set it aside in the layaway room, and then you make payments on that particular item. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, it's just a lot more tangible that you go and make payments on it. Now, again, this is why it gets a bad reputation, because it seems a little strange. You like visit your purse, right? It's like, right. Hey, I got to go to Marshall's and checking on the purse that I'll own in 3 or 4 months. It seems weird. Yeah. Seems like there's something wrong with that, but I'm not sure there is. I find it to be responsible.
Yeah, I mean, it's responsible. It's also incredibly countercultural right now. I mean, I can't see young Pete walking into Chess King making payments on a pair of pants.
IOU.
For 6 months, especially now. You're going to go and you're going to buy them, and you're going to figure out how to pay them later or not pay them and go into bankruptcy. I don't know. A pair of pants from Chess King putting you into bankruptcy is kind of a funny thought. But no, I don't see traditional layaway coming back in any shape or form. But man, it'd be great if it did.
I will have to say, live stream viewer Danza notes that she loved layaway back in the good old days. Got a lot of my clothes growing up that way. Helped me as an unbanked teenager. That is the other element to this, Dame. It helps the unbanked. And it is, of course, like you said, the opposite of instant gratification, which is why there will be no new form of layaway. If for some reason these buy now, pay later services spin off the newfangled layaway plan, it will never take off because it is pay now, buy later. What would we even call that? It would be called pay now-ish, get later. Yeah, it doesn't really sound that great.
I'm sure we could come up with some acronym that would make it really cool and trendy.
Dame, let's do this. After the break, coming up, biggest waste of money of the week. And by God, thank God for Louis Vuitton. They give me so many things to explain how wasteful the purchases of their product are. All that is next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Pinkins, I'm so with you. My friend Brian says, as a middle school and high school kid, utilized layaway at Value City and the classic Dunham's Sports. Pink, was this at the 34th and High School Road, Dunham's? Because that's the one I used to get down at. Dunham's, there are a couple around. Isn't there one up near you, Dame?
Yeah, there is. It hasn't been around very long. I mean, as far as northeastern Indiana was concerned, Dunham's is a fairly new store. I had no idea they'd been around that long.
And I think there's one in Columbus, Indiana, but they used to be in central Indiana like a long time. I mean, talking when like middle school for me. Wow. And it was always, I'll just speak to my experience 30 years ago. It was always kind of weird. Right? They didn't have a lot of stock of anything. It's like you went and it's like, we have a baseball. It's over there. And you go and get the baseball. And then they had like a bright pink shirt and then like a cooler. And then like that's all there was. And it was this giant store that never could keep stock. And it was like, well, do people go there a lot? Is that why they're so low on stock? But I don't know. It's like, do you learn how to do inventory at Dunham's and then you go work at Dick's? Like, I don't know how any of that works.
Interesting.
So I guess it's not that way anymore.
I mean, our Dunham's has fluctuated with inventory at times, but I think that it was a big issue for a lot of people last year for obvious reasons. So it's not something that I've typically experienced too often out there.
I am a sucker for a great sporting goods store.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever go and hang out? What was the one in Chicago? Was it Modell's?
Walked past one a couple times, but I don't think I ever went inside.
No, I don't know if that was it. There was like this 8-story sporting goods store in downtown Chicago that we used to go in like back when I was in second grade, and they had like all these Walter Payton things, which I think was amazing. But I still love a good sporting goods store.
I dig like the giant Cabela's.
Yes, Bass Pro. Come on,
so much fun to go into.
Now here's the thing about that. It's like there's just outdoor sports. There's not that soccer isn't outdoor, but there's not like ball sports.
Traditional sports.
It's hooking and shooting.
That's right.
Okay. In 3, 2. Oh wait, I'm not ready. Everybody relax. Go figure. I'm not ready to do something. 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week right here on the Pete the Planner Show is, Dame, like I said earlier, thank God for Louis Vuitton. The Louis Vuitton pizza box case. It might be called a pizza box, but it's not made for carrying a pizza. Instead, this cleverly named case from Louis Vuitton is made for carrying vinyl records, CDs, and other audio accessories. It's shaped like a pizza box at roughly 14 inches square and 1.5 inches tall, but is built like one of the company's iconic trunks with a monogrammed canvas exterior, natural cowhide lining, and snap closure, and gold-colored hardware. Finished with the message LV Sound Design and Record Club in white on the top. Dame, guess how much this dumb thing is?
$690.
Ooh, you are so far off. Last week, you actually had a great guess. And I don't even remember what it was. I just was so impressed all week. I could barely stand it. $2,090. Man, can you imagine how many layaway payments you'd have to make on this?
5 years worth.
What in the world? There are certain things I try not to judge people too much, right? I try not to say like, yeah, people have different tastes and feelings and goals. I will judge you hard if you buy this.
Those white letters on the box look like they're the peel and stick kind that you would get from Value City or Dollar General.
Yeah.
And it looks incredibly bad.
Okay, here's a question for you. Do you think at Louis V, do people call it that? Louis V?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think at LV headquarters, there's one of two vibes going? They made this and were like, wow, this is amazing. Or do they make it and go, some sucker's going to buy this. This cost us $17 to manufacture. We've just made upwards of $2,083. What do you think the real vibe is there?
I think it's a lot of, let's see if we can get people to buy this. There's no reason to buy virtually anything that they make and pay the prices that they charge. I mean, this is dumb.
Now, I don't mind something that's very expensive because it is functionally better than other things, right? Like amazing speakers, and the sound really is better than anything you've ever heard, or a car that performs better, but it's a box that holds stuff. Like it doesn't function.
Well, this kind of gets back to a debate that you had a couple of years ago, I think, with one of our coworkers, Chad, about are Yetis worth the price?
And he suggested, what did I say?
You said no, absolutely
I said
not.
No. I don't still own a Yeti. Dane, what's in the news this week?
The Biden administration is extending a moratorium on federal student loan payments through early 2022. The Education Department made the announcement last Friday, and it follows an earlier extension of that President Biden made when he took office. The moratorium was set to expire at the end of September and has been extended until January 31st. The Education Department said that this would be the final extension, however. Loan repayments and interest accrual has been paused for borrowers with federal student loans since March 13th of 2020. Collection on defaulted loans has also been suspended as well. The moratorium applies to about $1.4 trillion in federal student debt owed by some 42.8 million borrowers. And for those of you playing at home, more than $5 billion a month in interest has not been collected during the moratorium period.
Okay, so I have an opinion. My opinion is, coming from a place of privilege, admittedly, I think this is a mistake. I think that this is a situation that hurts people more than it helps them. It does help some people, which I love, right? I love the idea that it helps some people. I think there just needs to be more qualification as to how you achieve the unnecessary aspect of pain, right? I feel like just a blanket you don't have to pay is going to hurt people because, as you and I talked about before the show, what ends up happening is you don't have this obligation to pay. So then you reassign that money to other things in your life, which often aren't necessarily moving you forward financially. They're just creating new habits and obligations. And then come with the end of this moratorium, you've had 24 months of not having a payment. And while it'd be great if you moved forward for those 24 months or survived those 24 months, but most people at this point are just forming new habits, and they're going to be in a much worse position when this is over. That's my view.
I think that's a common and a reasonable view, Pete. Nice job.
I also have to say that's exactly what's going to happen with an advanced child tax credit. And will it stimulate the economy? Yeah, it will. Will it help some people get kids out of poverty, and will it put food on the table? Yes. And I love that. I think that is great. But again, I think the way to do these sorts of things is to have it not be for anyone who makes under $150,000 as a household. It has to really serve the people who really need it, because otherwise it will create behavioral issues.
You think the child tax credit sticks around in its current form next year?
Yeah. I think you can't put the genie back in the bottle on that one.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll see. That's the whole thing with economics in general that I learned back in college. I remember talking to a professor about this whole idea of, they tell you about these theories about Keynesian economics or Austrian economics, and you're talking about it, and you're like, okay, so how does it work? And they're like, oh, these are just theories of how it works. Right? That's the weird thing about economics, is just like, well, this is what we think is going to happen, but then something happens, and then both warring factions get to argue as to what just happened, which is sort of a mind-blowing concept here. There are the basics of economics, but there are also, it's really wrapped in theory. So my theory is that this will be bad for more people than good, but I'll never be proven right or wrong.
My econ professor always said that he wished he could double the money supply in the U.S. just to see what happened. And I have to think, over
it's
the last
probably already
year,
happened.
He's just sitting in his front yard in a lawn chair with a beer in his hand, just watching the world go by, taking notes.
He was right. What else is in the news?
The U.S. labor market hit a new milestone recently. For the first time, average pay in restaurants and supermarkets climbed above $15 an hour. Wages have been rising rapidly as the economy reopens and businesses struggle to hire enough workers. Some of the biggest gains have gone to workers in some of the lowest paying industries. Overall, nearly 80% of workers now earn at least $15 an hour, up from 60% in 2014. Job sites and recruiting firms say many job seekers won't even consider jobs that pay less than $15 anymore. For years, low-paid workers fought to make at least that much, and now it's effectively become the new baseline.
Now, I will speak for myself here, because I don't want to group you into my thinking. I have long supported wage increase at that level of income. And I also love that it happened more organically as opposed to forced increases via mandate. Your thoughts?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm all for higher wages as long as it's not a government mandate to make that happen, because I think that has some potentially adverse consequences that come along with it.
Now, there are adverse consequences that have come with sort of this movement, and that is that there are 10 million job openings and like 7 million unemployed people. So there's like, I don't know, we've got this weird labor market going on right now, which we talked about a lot in the last couple of weeks. One more story, Dane. What do you got?
Disney Plus has 116 million subscribers, the company said in its earnings report yesterday. To illustrate how impressive that is, Disney initially projected that the streaming service would hit between 60 and 90 million subscribers by 2024. Together with ESPN Plus and Hulu, Disney has nearly 174 million subscriptions, which is breathing down the neck of Netflix, which has 209 million.
Did you catch that story about Scarlett Johansson a few weeks ago?
Yeah, the Black Widow stuff.
I have to side with her, and it's not just because I'm a fan. It's just that I agree with her. This idea that, like, hey, we're going to pay you on the back end of this movie coming out, and then they put it straight to stream and not in the movie theaters. And I think that's no good. No one cares what I think. Damn, that's all we have time for this week on the show. Reminding you, email askpete@petetheplanner.com. We'll talk about it. Send you good vibes, because good vibes are all that's in the budget. Catch Damian Dunn, the radio star, on a radio near you. Look at that. Look at that. What are you doing today, Dame?
I've got some phone calls this afternoon with some of my very favorite people.
You want a little bit of old man gripey?
Yeah, do I ever?
So, I'm back on the road, right? I mean, like, this is a thing. I'm back and going places and talking.
Not to the extent you used to be, but yes, you're.
Oh, no, I'm about to be. I guess that's yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I have 8 flights in the next 2 months. I mean, actually, that's still not the case. Anyway, I'm speaking in California on, no one cares, September 13th, September 14th. The deck, my PowerPoint presentation that I have to present to this group of people, was due this past Monday. And I was like, I'm not sending it to you. Like, it's not part of my workflow to give you a current events deck 30 more than 30 days. And because what's going to happen, they're going to get it, look at it, and it's just going to sit on their computer for a month. And meanwhile, I got other stuff to do, right? And so now they gave me a 1-week extension. So this afternoon, I get to build a PowerPoint presentation for something I'm going to talk about in more than a month. And that is so dumb.
Can you just give them a deck full of slides that say TBD on them, and then give them an updated one a week before you go out, or a few days before you go out?
I'm a guest. I just, anyway, this will turn in from old man gripey to like entitled elitist real quick. So I'm going to just shut this down. They hired, you want me there for a reason. Like, let me be the professional that I am, and I'll deliver. You'll be okay.
Do they not understand that spontaneous Pete is often better than planned Pete?
Yeah. The great glory here is it's Pete the planner. Yeah. Here's the plan. I'm going to be present and just make it happen in the moment. The only thing I plan is what I'm eating at a restaurant I'm going to 6 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Getting sweaty because I'm getting upset. Dave, I've had to use the restroom this entire show because of the amount of coffee I've had today. And I almost made you just carry a break while I went to the restroom.
Everyone appreciates you not doing that.
All right. Hey, everybody. I hope things are good. Let's end the show because it's getting weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Dame, mazel tov on everything for the rest of your life.
Thanks. Same to you.
Okay, everybody. Stay getting money.